TikTok has proven to be a powerful source of clout in general media. The once famous app where everyone was simply dancing and or lip syncing and then getting mocked for it has become a staple in most people's everyday lives and has come to create entire creations that far exceed around and outside of the ever expanding app. In this case, I wish to discuss specifically the aspect of fandom that reaches far beyond the traditional aspects of fandom and general fandom culture and general fandom social media enjoyment. It proves something rather pointless and also has a very clear point. TikTok wishes to hold on to pop culture and proves the point of how powerful one person can be when given the opportunity. Today I'm talking about the Hiccup Cult, a creation of just a young woman, a young 16-year-old woman, presenting creator that has grown far past what it was originally intended and become an entire pop culture movement in itself on TikTok, that is. Now, we start the story off in a very simple way. A theme park. Well, kind of. Recently, a new theme park in Universal Studios has opened up called Epic Universe, and it has an entire area dedicated to How to Train Your Dragon and the general film series and or anything in the IP. This area has many attractions based on the acclaimed films and or TV shows, and I may even one day make a video on the films if so much is wanted of me, and has brought the long-done series back into the cultural relevancy. At least to some extent it has. Granted, you could also akin this to the live-action remakes that they plan on making and or have announced to be making, but that is the most amount of promo I will give those series. So we're not going to count them as bringing How to Train Your Dragon back into the general cultural zeitgeist, if you will. Anyway, for whatever reason, How to Train Your Dragon is back, baby, and it's better than ever. And it's in the minds of the current culture. This results in people looking back at previous films and for content provided. Eventually, the creator who jumped on this trend and started this trend even brings up something that no one has ever thought of before about these films. Her is Anise Stinky Sock, aka going by the alias Queen of Hiccups. And what she brought up wasn't anything special, nor was it even groundbreaking of a discovery of these films and something new. Rather, she just capitalized on a trend that has already been taking place and taking the internet generally by storm. That's free will. See, there has been a rather minor but recent trend recently where some people will post what they do in a day that relates to their own free will. Sometimes this is something most people wouldn't do, or sometimes it's something as simple as just getting a sweet treat for yourself. The trend is simple, and it's just demonstrating that we all have free will and are capable of using it whenever we want. Whatever that means for you is different from one another person. In this scenario, the creator doesn't directly state or make reference to the free will trend. However, she does point out that there are just PNG images of Hiccup and all of the characters of How to Train Your Dragon that people can just freely use. They can use their free will on these images. Her pointing this out created the spark that was the flame to become this trend on TikTok. Once this creator pointed out the many different PNG images that exist of TikTok, if not also the exact same one that many have now used as the blueprint, if you will, for the profile pictures, the trend took off on its own, and we have seen all manner of hiccups on the spectrum, and I can't help but see similarities to a previous TikTok ecosystem that has come before this one. Now, outside of the box of context, Arcane has nothing to do with the Hiccup Army, but in the perspective and box of context, I swear this is important. This video isn't actually dedicated to the Hiccup Army, and rather it's an end to a means to discuss the more bigger cultural moment in which the Hiccup Army proves, which is the mob mentality TikTok has managed to create. In which case, Arcane was actually the first in my recollection. To be clear, this is not the first time mob mentality has taken place in social media, and rather there has been many times beforehand, but at least in recent memory, the Jace Army is what reigns true in my head. Once upon a time, during Arcane's runtime, there was a creative faction of TikTokers and TikTok creators and or even just viewers, which started off as a pro-Jace faction. This then split into many different factions, all of which use the same PNG image of the character Jace from Arcane in a zoom-in of his face. to put your stance of the actions the characters took part in the Arcane series. Without spoilers, Jace made some plot-relevant decisions that people were mixed on, and this resulted in the internet showing their support and or disdain and or unmoved positions even on the matter at the time. What is also important to mention about this specific time frame is the context is and was at first key. Many people changed their profile pictures to being pro-Jace or anti-Jace was the traditional way in which people would present. But then eventually so on and so forth, we started leaning less and less towards being pro and anti-Jace and more into sheer shenanigans, if you will. This stance became relevant outside of Arcane and League of Legends, the mother game to the series, and many changed their profile pictures to match the energy of the fandom rather than actually being a part of the fandom. But eventually, with time, it became less and less about the plot relevancy of what Jace had done and more about being a part of something and being with so many people taking part in something that was a temporary trend. Even if you didn't know what happened in that series or why people were doing it, you were there solely for the vibes. Now, this is where we kind of tie back to the Hiccup Cult. There is a 16-year-old girl who points out to people how easy it is to be part of something, and people just jumped on that. Not everyone became Hiccup. Some chose different characters from the series, such as Roughnut, Astrid, or Snotlout, and so on and so forth. But either way, people got involved, and this has become a self-proclaimed cult, and it took part and has now taken part in a trend that is started by one person just pointing out the obvious. Nothing special and nothing insane. There are just PNG images of characters of How to Train Your Dragon all over TikTok now. They are accessible and able to be used, and users are using them and choosing to show off this concept of human choice and put it on full display. And so all the people who have saw the original video have now gone and done that. They have put on display what it means to have free will. The free will of one has become the free will of many. Overnight, we saw many people join in on this great cause, in my opinion, that was just making your profile Hiccup from the hit film trilogy of How to Train Your Dragon. Hiccup took TikTok by storm, and now we've started seeing iterations of the trend and people editing the Hiccup picture to be different and more encompassing of what they want their Hiccup profile picture to represent, even becoming different characters from the How to Train Your Dragon universe, as I said, and further expanding upon the idea the original creator had put out. The most interesting part of all of this was one 16-year-old girl who put this idea forth into the general ethos, and it was taken up, and I think that truly defines virality in our modern era. Virality is very different and difficult to describe nowadays, considering what defines viral depending on how many views something gets, or how much reach something does, or how much of an impact it leaves on us. But this is what I think modern virality looks like. It's something where a large group of people take part in a small trend, and it may start off as small, but eventually it becomes something more. If you've gotten this deep into the video, I assume you're committed to hearing me out about a very silly topic, but maybe I'll turn into something a little bit more serious. The Hiccup Cult isn't and won't be some political movement, nor was the Jace movement. But that doesn't take away from the reality that it is mobilization. These types of movements prove that mobilization is a very real thing, and we are capable of it. And it can transcend borders, boundaries placed on us and our birthplaces. And it proves that we are more than just one, but rather we are so many. And I think, to a degree, that's kind of beautiful. As funny as it might sound, I do mean that this Hiccup trend proves that we all are a part of one big thing, and we can be a part of one big thing. It proves that we are not as divided as they want us to be. It proves that there is a world where we can all understand one another, and that sometimes the dumbest things can bring out the most beauty. I am an artist by trade, and if there is one thing I believe firmly, it's that life is never that serious. Life is what we make of it and what we make out of it to be. And a part of that in so many people's lives now is the Hiccup Cult. Sure, it may be a small section of a person's life, and it may not be that serious, but it's still something that a lot of people have now taken part in. And people did, in fact, mobilize for this stupid but kind of awesome cause. It's silly and it's rather dumb, but sometimes isn't that the point of it all? I make this video as a cultural critique and or acknowledgement as to what the Hiccup Cult is. There is a place and space for us to have fun and be silly. Lord knows in a time like now, we need it. A time where being more fun and loving and open feels as though it's taboo, and we need reminders that we can have fun and that fun can be a movement in itself. Sometimes having fun can be more powerful than giving into the harmful mindsets that the world around us is presenting. They may have the microphone, but we have the power. It's us, the people, who really make the decisions. And at the end of the day, seeing an army of hiccups on my For You page reminds me that we are capable and can do more than what they expect us to do. Now, I am a little bit biased because I have an election coming up. But I ask you to use your voice and be active and be open to what the world presents you. And more importantly, to have fun in spite of all the harmful things that are in the world, including legislation. If I have learned anything, it's that fun can conquer all, even if they don't want that to be the case. I have been Annie Bizarre, and have some fun. Goodbye!